Be sure to check out our sponsor, the War for the Tower podcast. Also, Jeff Richardson does Shattered Worlds RPG, an RPG that he invented, and an arts and interview show called Everything is Awesome. You can find all of them by searching War for the Tower, Shattered Worlds, or Everything is Awesome on your podcatcher. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Some Spoiled, a Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host Switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros HBO Spoiler Edition. I'm doing all this from memory, actually, at this point, because I normally have it up in front of me, but I didn't do that in time, so I'm just going to end that there. Too Hot for TV. Chapters 16 and 17, Bran and Tyrion. In these chapters, Bran gets to sit in on the roundtable discussion about what we are going to do with Lady Hornwood, who is very inconveniently unmarried and infertile at this point. Goddamn women, am I right? And then we have Tyrion, who decides to make some offers that can't be refused. Yeah. Welcome to Some Spoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king. Knowledge.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
So, Rashawn, I don't know if you noticed, but if you listen to the Dresden Files, guys, I remembered what I say in my intro about the fact that I am Natasha this time around. So, please applaud me. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I just had a bit of an off morning and completely drew a blank about what I say after I say welcome to the show, everybody, and just went, I'm Natasha. Just genuinely had no idea. So these two chapters, a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
What did you think?
It was kind of neat to see, because both chapters are very political, It's all about strategizing and figuring out who your allies are. You
got your McBeals.
you got your one with Kate. So you get to see Bran, who's a child who doesn't really get to participate. He just kind of is, a figurehead. He needs to be there because of his station, but he's not actually a part of anything.
Right.
And then you switch to Tyrion, who is really participating.
Large and in charge.
Just setting up his pieces, putting people into the position that he thinks will be, I guess, most useful to him, most beneficial to him. Mm-hmm. And just seeing the different way the game can be played,
right?
And even not even just Bran, but the adults at the table, like Lewin and the other gentleman. Is it
Roderick?
Is it Roderick?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. They're the ones that are actually really, involved in these conversations. And quite frankly, watching them deal with their people and then going and watching Tyrion, and you're just like, oh, some people are good at this and some people are not good at this.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, how each of us would do in this sort of position, because there needs to be such a knowledge.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. There needs to be so much of a knowledge of the people involved. And Tyrion has a bit of an advantage in that respect, where the people that he's dealing with are folks on the small council mostly that he knows and deals with every day, and has a good idea what their like goals and foibles and weaknesses are.
Yeah, it seems, though I would just say, he hasn't been the hand and on the small council for that long. It doesn't seem like.
No, but he's been in the castle.
But he's been around these people. He's been, especially because of his position being like really undesirable, he has the advantage of having observed all of these people when they may not have necessarily ever been paying attention to him.
Interesting, yeah, true.
Which I think gives him a significant advantage. And then, of course, like, I'm not comparing, like, Bran and Tyrion head-to-head, or, because that just is, makes no sense. But I thought it was a good illustration of what a difference it can make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right, we'll start with Bran. And he is having another moment of just, like, basically, fuck my life.
Yeah.
Which I do not begrudge him one bit.
Yeah, none of this is working out well for him. This position of being like the young prince of Winterfell is not anything that he ever wanted.
Nope.
And then add on the fact that what he did want, which was to be a knight, is completely off the table for him now.
Yeah.
These fucking Frey kids.
They suck.
Frey
suck! Woo!
And that's why y'all became pie. Not you personally, specifically, but...
I wish that there was, like, some way to just say that to them. They would have no context or understanding, but just being like, this is why y'all become pie later. I'm just saying, have them be real confused. Excuse me, what? Did she say we become pie? And, yeah, this, they're having a bunch of people coming in and out of Winterfell because it is autumn. Autumn is coming. Mm-hmm. That's not their words, but that's how it is. And that's what my words should be. I love autumn. That should be what I like. I love it. And Wyman Manderly arrives. As we find out later, some more. I think it's Umbers. Is it Umbers that they speak to later? There's just a bunch of people going on. Lady Hornwood, of course. And they're having all of these meetings with everybody to establish loyalties, kind of settle on like what their actions are going to be to reward certain things, and just get their ducks in a row, so to speak, with the war coming and... Yeah, Rob's
people are offering, their services in exchange for these other things they want, Everything is about negotiation. And I guess that's, like, true in a broader sense of, like, the whole series, but also, like, in our personal lives. So much can hang on how well you negotiate a thing.
Yeah.
And I mean that both in, like, moving through a thing and also like determining like what you're going to get out of a thing.
Right.
I am terrible at both of those endeavors.
Let me tell you.
I'm trying to think like what would I be trying to finagle, if I was coming to have an audience, with the Lord of Winterfell on the, the eve of like a very big war breaking out and taking over the whole land. And I mean, these guys are showing up and they want like, a couple of them went Lady Hornwood because, as we find out, she's sitting on a nice little chunk of property that people are interested in having. Oh, and Ramsay shows up.
Fucking the bastard.
Right? That's a huge thing that happens here. And he is not well liked.
Nope.
And we find out, and it probably was in the show, but it turns out that Bolton has lost a son, and once he lost that son, that's when he finally like brought Ramsay up, which I thought was just a really interesting, because I remember at some point watching the show and marveling like, this bastard is just out here commanding people and and running shit.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was good to find out. And that he is, like, nobody likes him already.
No,
like,
not
his
a bit.
reputation is like, people are like, have y'all heard about that motherfucker?
So, do you remember me talking about a name of a stronghold somewhere that is so ridiculous but I didn't want to spoil it until we got there? Mm-hmm. Did you notice it here? The name of the Bolton castle? It's Dreadfort.
Dreadfort?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember if we went and like talked about that or not. And so in the original recording, I have to mention it because I find this still, to this day, very funny. Brendan, when he heard Ramsay referred to as the bastard of the Dreadfort, thought that was like such a metal name that he kept on saying it like it was like the lyrics in a rock. So he would say, "Bastard of the Dreadfort!" like that every time. And it just became this thing. Every time that the conversation turned to Ramsay, it was, "Bastard!" And that was how it always went. So I just had to revive that because it's a classic and mention it, and that's that.
Oh, that's pretty good, though.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Good.
Imagining him as like the member of a hair band did something to sort of take the sting out of him because he's very horrible.
I think that they had the same name on the show.
Did it? I couldn't remember. Okay.
Yeah, it was on the show. Because when I read it here, I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that. Though, now I will always hear it in that weird high-pitched squeal.
So,
that's something I can look forward to for the rest of my life.
Oh, God. That's one of those things that I wish that there wasn't so much baggage associated with it, because I would like to go back and re-listen to it, but I don't want to hear his voice.
Yeah. Oh, man.
You know?
Yeah. How weird that must be.
Yeah.
To have, like, a time capsule, and for it to have been so public for so long.
Yep.
Of, like, there's this alternate universe where you and him still exist as a married couple, like, covering the show or the books, and it's just
and there are genuinely people who are not up to date and will like contact me talking about him, and I'm just like, oh, hey,
they're like, hey, tell him he did a great job in that episode.
A little, yeah. Like, you know, I did a video once and somebody was like, where's Brendan in the fucking the chat, and I was like, where what? With his wife, probably. Like,
that is so strange.
Yeah, it's really weird. I was actually talking about that because I'm about to finish up on covering Crazy Ex-Girlfriend for Spoil Me.
Aww.
And there is a like live sort of special at the end of the like playlist on I was about to say on Instagram, on Netflix. And it's a couple of people have said that they haven't rewatched the special since Adam died, the like co-songwriter that was her friend. Do you remember that he passed away from COVID?
No, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, he died the day after she gave birth to her first kid.
No,
yeah.
Fuck, I didn't know any of that.
It was awful.
Oh no.
And I was just saying, like, while I was recording, how incredibly a mixed blessing it must be to have a friend that you wind up losing, but you created something this powerful and important with them. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, if anything ever happened to Rashawn, I mean, the show would be how I reconnected with her. I would go and re-listen to stuff to, like, feel that she was around, and then I just felt literally sick to my stomach, and I was like, I'm not talking about that anymore.
Oh God.
Yep. Couldn't do it.
You just see my face. I'm like, what happened to me?
God only fucking knows. Don't go on any roller coasters. I approve. So Anyway, yeah, I just, it's the sort of thing that I wonder if there will ever be a day where I'm like, you know what, I think I can go back and listen now. I think enough time has passed, but I still haven't reached that point for sure.
I can't imagine. I mean, even after it's all water under the bridge and blah, 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 blah. Like, I can't imagine. Because it's not just going and listening to someone like a voicemail message. This is like you also have to listen to yourself.
Yep.
And I think that might be the hardest part of it.
Yep. Yeah. Remembering a time when the way that you were with each other was so different. Yeah. So anyway, on that note, that's so Bran gets carried out on Hodor's back, and he's meant to go right to the hall, and he does not do that. He can't resist.
Nope.
Going and seeing what the Freys are up to.
Yeah, it's all these people that are, you know, that have accompanied their various lords to these meetings. So you have an influx of, like, young gentlemen, you know, wanting to be knights, and the Freys are down there, and people are, like, lancing and just having a good time playing. You know, playing it being, you know, knights and all that jazz. And he can't resist it.
Nope. I can't blame him.
Again,
he's literally 8 years old.
Yeah. Almost 9. Almost a man grown, sir.
Guys.
You are 8.
It's like, I understand that people had to mature faster during certain eras, but I have a hard time believing that anybody could look at an 8-year-old and be like, you're almost a man now. That never happened, right?
I guess if your life expectancy is to, like, die when you're, like, 23, I guess being 8 feels like something.
I guess. Ugh. So they, like, kind of corner him and start fucking around with Hodor and mocking him a little bit. They also, like, Bran does a thing where he threatens them with sicking his wolf on them, and they're basically like, fucking bring it, man, whatever.
Yeah, I could use a new fur coat. Ugh. As if you would even stand a chance.
Right.
Get out of here.
And eventually, Maester Luwin interrupts this whole thing. And he is, you know, as anyone would be, disgusted by the Freys, but also disappointed in Bran's conduct, because he's supposed to be the host, he's supposed to set an example, he's also supposed to be somewhere else right now.
Yeah,
and he has been shirking his duties. On. Yeah.
He seems especially irritated that they are mocking Hodor in such a way. Like all of this is terrible, but, you know, he seems really pissed off at their behavior. And they do this, we were just kidding.
Yeah.
Which, I don't like reading it. I don't like when people do it in real life.
Just having a little fun.
I hate it so much. Oh, because it's like this fake innocence. Oh, we didn't know what we were doing. You know, and also simultaneously making it seem like you are overreacting.
Exactly.
You know,
gaslighting.
Yes, there you go.
So yeah, he, like you said, when they try and be like, oh well, we were just like, you know, joking around with Hodor, he fucking knows immediately what that means, and he's like, oh, were you little pieces of shit you are?
Yeah. I really wanted him to just come out and call them little pieces of shit. But I don't know, like, you know, I don't know exactly how much power he has to get away with talking. Even though these kids are little pieces of shit, they are still technically, like, nobles, right? And I don't know if he's allowed to just go around cursing them out. But I would have 100% approved of it.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that I don't feel like I have a good grip on what you're allowed to do in... Like, I would think that Maester Luwin would be able to get away with it. He clearly either thinks that he couldn't, that it's not his place, or that, like, it's not worth it. I'm not sure what is holding him back. Which just maybe not in his nature.
I think that's what I was thinking. Like, it's just not in his nature to be that way towards children, you know. There's a moment where, after he's, like, kind of, like, yelling at them for being shitty people, it says in italics that like one of the kids is looking at him as if to say, "Who are you to tell me anything?" But the kid doesn't act on that, and I'm assuming this is a Bran POV, so this is Bran thinking that's what that look means,
right?
You know? But then that's really the only thing that's said about it, because he tells them to fucking go on somewhere, and they do.
They
in
do
fact
indeed.
go on somewhere.
So I do enjoy Wyman Manderley so much, like his whole vibe. Bran comes in, apologizes for being late, and Wyman Manderley says, "No prince is ever late. Those who arrive before him have come early, that's all." And I was like, that is a fucking mood, friend. I am going to keep that in mind for any time I feel like throwing my weight around about something. Pun intended, Wyman.
Yeah, he's apparently a bigger man.
Yep.
And there's just no shortage of mentions of that.
Yep.
You know, I guess this is just how things are in this world, because it comes up like 12 different times.
Yes, it does.
Everything from like imagining lying beneath him in the bed to imagining him, you know, he can't even ride a horse, you know, just it goes on a bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't my favorite part.
That's fair. It's so wild because, you know, I posted something on Facebook recently about how, like, my suspicions surrounding any white person friending me have escalated over the years as I have begun to understand more of the nuances of racism and, you know, all of that in America and across the world. And it's interesting because you have the same thing happening with, like, fat phobia stuff. And because do you remember when we covered Sherlock and there's like a season, I think it's season 3, where it's sort of a dream sequence and Mycroft is super fat. He's in a fat suit and there's like a million fat jokes.
Oh, I do remember that.
And it was like one of those things where I was just so disgusted by it because it's just, there was no point to it. It didn't matter.
I can't imagine I was anything other than like, what?
You genuinely, like, once I mentioned it and pointed it out, you were like, oh yeah, that's fucked up. But it definitely did not occur to you yourself. Like, I had to point it out. And it's just funny to see you being like in here, yeah, they just like talked about that a million times and I'm over it and thanks, but no thanks. Just, we've all grown so much over time.
It's so true. Like, things that I just, you know, I just weren't on my radar, you know. And now I look back and I'm like, fuck, dude, like, what? Yeah, I was, my God, I don't want to derail the whole thing, but yeah, I was watching something else. I can't remember what the fuck I was watching. Oh, it's this stupid fucking show called Mom that was on CBS.
Okay.
And, not Tara Reid, but the other one that's like Tara Reid. Jamie something or the other.
I do
She's
not know.
on it.
Okay.
She's on it. And they had a whole season where the joke was that she gained all this weight. And she's in like a fat suit.
Cool.
And it's like 2017 or 18. You know, this, you know, or maybe even 19. We are still doing this? I was disgusted.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we all have our things that we just, like, didn't really... And, like, for me, being a white person, not knowing about racism is, unfortunately for America, unsurprising. But there are other things that I still feel like... I can't believe that this was so... I was so unaware of how much of a thing this is. Because, for example... the goblins in Harry Potter, and you bringing up the anti-Semitism there.
Yeah, I remember talking about that
and
the first time.
Anti-Semitism was one of those things that I genuinely had no concept of the dog whistles or what the the sort of reptile people being like a weird euphemism in a way for it. Like, all of this stuff that I had no idea. And when she pointed it out, it wasn't even like, oh, I'm having a revelation. It was me having to go, I trust you that's what this is. But what? Because I just genuinely, that wasn't in my understanding, you know?
Right.
There's so many things, so many places. And there's still stuff that I find, you know, like, those of you who don't know, the word gypsy is a slur. And saying gypped is like a really offensive thing to say because it implies a whole like racial thing. And that is still a word that gets tossed around all over the place, even though like it's no super not okay.
Yeah.
And when you try and like explain to people, they don't take you seriously because of the fact that it is the fact that it's used is presented as evidence of how inoffensive it is.
Exactly.
It's very frustrating and circular.
Yeah. We have this weird thing where we believe, like, well, if it was that bad, we would all know it was that bad.
Right.
And because they didn't know it was that bad, that becomes proof that it's not that bad.
Yep. And it's just
and we all do it across different things, right? Like, all of us have blind spots about different things. That, you know, there's so much that we can't know, you know. And if we're lucky, we have good people in our lives that have, you know, just through the course of friendship and having conversations, share these kind of things with you, and then you're like, oh shit, okay. You know, if you're not an asshole, your response is, oh shit, oh okay.
If you're not an asshole,
an asshole.
Yeah.
All right. I will say one last thing about this because I just think it's really interesting. A friend shared an opinion article, and someone was talking about how a lot of the rules, a lot of the etiquette that we have around what we call table manners, and how rooted in white supremacy, colonialism, and classism those rules are.
Yeah.
And how it does this thing where it assumes that, oh, well, we eat dinner at the table using cutlery and very specific, and, you know, utensils for different meals, and this is the height of, like, you know, good manners. And look at those savages, usually brown, eating with their hands, you know.
Yep.
And this whole thing that we do, and how we perpetuate that with our children, even though, you know, like, you know, these weird, you know, don't have your elbows on the table, and, you know, just weirdness around it.
Yeah.
And how it's okay to have weirdness, but when you have the implication that these people who do it differently are then less than you, you know? Less civilized, less cultured, all that jazz, all that stuff. Then, yeah, your table manners and your rules, yeah, they are racist. Sorry, they're racist as fuck. And people, like, in the comments were just like, oh, everything's racist now. And you're like, well, yeah, the shit that's racist, yeah.
It has been, buddy. We just didn't talk about it because nobody had a platform that would be listened to, so.
What do you mean? How bold of you to end that sentence with now?
Actually, this is a good time to bring this up. Guys, I'm resurrecting the Discord for Unspoiled. And those of you who want a link, I'm going to post it in the, like, comments for this show, the show notes. And I'm also going to be posting the links on the Facebook groups and stuff, but it will not be patrons only. It's going to be a bit of an experiment to opening up the community to everybody. And one of the rules, the first rule, actually, is don't be a dickhead. Don't be using slurs and ableist language or all the phobias, you know. But also, when somebody tells you that something is harmful or offensive, don't have a tantrum. Please err on the side of actually listening and learning. And I reserve the right, if you have a tantrum, to kick you the fuck out just over the way that you reacted to a thing. Because I just don't have the interest in the knee-jerk, like, well, that can't be because that's just how it's always been. Like, do you hear yourself? Yeah. Do you?
We don't advocate for the devil in these groups. So don't bring none of that.
Oh, I swear. That's a really good... You know what? I should add that. I'm going to add that. No advocating for the devil, please, into my rules. The devil is banned. And so shall you be.
Well, okay. he's not banned, because I do want to see that fight in hell. You know,
for reference to this, please see our Dresden Files podcast. Otherwise, nobody knows what we're talking about.
Oh my God, it's been like 20-something minutes, and we are like, all right. People were like, are you guys going to talk about the book? Maybe.
Eventually, bitch, we might.
Maybe we will.
Okay. So, they begin on their, what's the word I want here? I was just going to use the word conversation, but that just doesn't feel adequate for, like, the depth of what they're getting into here. And negotiations isn't really right because it doesn't start off that way. Mm-mm. So, all right, let's just talk about what Wyman Manderley is after here. He wants to create a mint and make coins with Robb's head on them, which, I'll tell you what, guys. If anybody wants to get on my good side, you can go ahead and make a coin or two with my head on it. I won't be mad at you. Make sure that I got my curly hair for it, though.
Oh, my God.
And, let's see. Bran's interest pricked up at the talk of warships. No one asked him, but he thought Lord Wyman's notion a splendid one. In his mind's eye, he could see them already. He wondered if a cripple had ever commanded a warship. But Sir Roderick promised only to send the proposal on to Robb for his consideration, while Maester Lewin scratched at the parchment. And this is what sort of is significant to me, is that they don't, like, promise anybody anything.
No. They're just taking ideas and requests, and they're going to send them all to Robb. Mm-hmm. Which, I guess, right, is what you do. I mean, that came out way, like, shittier than I meant.
Listen, I didn't say anything.
It really was just poor phrasing. I didn't mean it like, oh, I guess. But I guess my confusion is... All right, let me regroup. Two things. Robb is kind of busy.
Indeed.
You know? And I mean that, like, I would have thought in this situation there would be, like, a proxy to make these type of choices and decisions
on his behalf.
Because I feel like he has so much else going on. But I completely understand that you would need to have your king approve of some of this stuff, right? Like minting coin with his face on it, and then by extension, like, no longer dealing with the rest of the realm and their whatever kind of currency they use, I guess.
Right.
You know, which is a really bold plan.
It is indeed,
and I like it because it does speak to, because, like, the thing with Robb, at least from the show, it didn't last very long, right? The North fighting, you know, that didn't last as, you know, it was like done by whatever, like the third season or whatever. But this is like a practical thing. Mm-hmm. If you are, like, having your own sovereign nation, you need to have a coin.
Have you seen those people that try and, like, declare sovereignty on, like, their fucking 2 acres of land and create their own?
There's a whole, well, don't want to derail, but they had a really scary standoff recently. Did you see anything about that?
No.
It barely made a blip on the news. Yeah, it's too much. It's, like, too involved to talk about now. But, yeah, a group of people they were, like, driving these, like, heavy, I don't know if they were tractor trailers or just regular trucks, but they got pulled over, and it turned into this standoff because the people were like, we don't recognize your authority over us, to, like, the troopers or whoever had pulled them over.
No, really?
And if I'm not mistaken, they were part of a religious group that I was loosely affiliated with as a child.
Oh my God, no! Oh, this is weird.
When the news story was on, I, like, said to Steven, I used to be one of them. And he was like, of course you did.
Man.
Like, my nonsense isn't even surprising to him anymore.
I just can't. when are you going to start your fucking podcast, Rashawn? Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry. Just his face, he was just so disgusted over me.
Oh, God.
It's like, I don't mean to be this way. I can't help the life that I have lived.
I like to think of this as like Wyman Manderley being like, invest in Dogecoin. We're creating a revolution here, folks. Get in on the ground.
That's amazing. So yeah, and he's got the idea about having some warships, which all, again, like, this is a man who is thinking about the North really being a nation, and these are the things we're going to need moving forward. And I appreciate that. And they can keep making all the fat jokes they want. I don't think he's wrong.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So let's see. Yeah, this is when Wyman says something about, how about that Hornwood lady, I got a wood for her horn, am I right?
Yours is almost as bad as his. He says that, he fucking says, oh my God, she was born a Manderley, you know. Perhaps when her grief has run its course, she'd like to be one again. I'm just like, fuck, dude.
A man does get lonely. And then he does, I will give him credit here. Or, if the lady fancies a younger lad, well, my son Wendell is unwed as well. And I was like, all right, you know what? You're not just being like, gimme, gimme. You're willing to think that maybe she isn't really going to be into you, old man. Which I was like, I appreciate that acknowledgement, I have to admit.
It's funny, too, because it becomes like, it's such a good reminder that these unions are not about, like, a personal desire to be with the one person, right?
Right.
Like, he's like, she can marry me, she can marry my son. The most important thing is that she becomes Manderley and we get access to her shit.
Right, exactly.
You know, which is on the one hand, like you said, you're just like, okay, well, it doesn't have to all be terrible for her. She can get a young man out of the deal. And also, like, ew.
Yeah, this is something that I always am surprised by it, but I'm listening to a sort of audio performance of a collection of Jane Austen's novels. And I am always surprised in these, like, conversations about marriage, how frankly someone's income is talked about as a factor in deciding whether to marry them or not. I imagine it as being the sort of thing that we all know is a factor, but people don't really say out loud. And to a degree, in certain settings, it's considered, like, vulgar to talk about it, but it is genuinely part of the conversation in an open way, much more frequently than I would have imagined, you know? And so, yeah, and it makes sense, like, when you think of these alliances, because that's what they keep calling it in the Jane Austen novels, is a connection. She would be most desirous of such a connection, is the way that it's talked about. And it's not that far beyond an era like this, where it's about who you have aligned your family with and what you can get out of that. And that's still how some people approach it, you know?
I was just going to say, I was reading something not too long about the culture of arranging marriages and how there is a small group of people in the U.S. that mostly around, at least in what I was reading, the focus was people who are like part of a religious tradition and a very conservative, like evangelical tradition, and they still do arranged marriages, and it's all about finding the best partner for their kid, and things like, you know, what you do for a living, how much money you make, are discussed very frankly, because those are very important parts of the deal, especially because in this particular circle it's very, like, traditional, and, like, we need to make sure that you can make enough money so that the wife can be a stay-at-home mom with, like, the 12 kids or whatever that you're going to expect her to pump out.
Yep.
And in those circles, that kind of stuff is discussed. But, you know, we have a thing where we have let, like, the idea of romance really just run roughshod over, like, all the common considerations that you should be having when you think about marrying someone.
Yes. Not that, you know, guys, we're loved. It's not like it doesn't matter. But if y'all think that love conquers all, let me tell you a little bit about the leading cause of divorce. And that is financial problems. So that shit matters, whether or not you want to pretend.
It's true.
So, okay. They have that conversation. They basically, you know, put him off. And let's see. Oh, right. Here it is. His lordship waited till the table had been cleared before he raised the matter of a letter he had received from Lord Tywin Lannister, who held his elder son, Sir Wyllis, taken captive on the Green Fork. He offers him back to me without ransom, provided I withdraw my levies from his grace and vow to fight no more. And Roderick's like, and you're going to say no, right? And he's like, oh, no, I definitely am. I mean, and they're at Harrenhal, by the way, which I would just put some effort into getting him out of there because that place is fucking cursed. And I just, you know. And that sort of the end of this conversation, and then they move on to actual Lady Hornwood, who turns up looking pale and tired, and she is grief-stricken because her husband had died already, and they had a son, and her son has been killed, also on the Green Fork, I think. Yeah, both. So she's in, like, you know, when he was talking earlier, Wyman, about letting her, like, once she's done her grieving, and that's like a common refrain. Everybody is like, we want to talk about getting you married real quick, but once you're done your grieving, of course. Yeah, it's almost like they just have like a set number of days that's acceptable, and then they're just checking them off. And I really wonder what that is, like what they consider a respectable, like, length of grief.
Yeah. The other thing she brings up is that, you know, Bolton is like looking at her land hungrily, and it looks very dangerous.
Yeah, apparently her lands border right up against Lord Bolton's, and so it would be very easy for him to be like, I could just expand. Yeah. She doesn't have any men guarding her right now. Yeah, it could be a problem.
Yeah, and they're talking about, like she's even saying, like, okay, he's amassing men. It could be because he's about to go join the war. But what if it's not? Yeah. And so, like, she has to be, it feels like she's being really careful about making accusations, you know, because he is, at this point, still, like, in good standing with the Starks, right? He's still a bannerman. He's still fighting with Robb, and, you know, so she can't just come right out. Yes. I think, you know. But, and she starts talking about Ramsay, and nobody really knows him yet because he just got here, you know, in the last couple of years. So it sounds like, because she's in such close proximity to them, that maybe she has a little bit more information about him or experience with him or something. Because other people were just like, yeah, I don't know much about him. And she's like, well, let me tell you. They say he never takes a bath. Oh, wait, no, that's oh my Reek. God, that's Reek. So there was a Reek before Theon, which I did not know. Yep. I don't think that bit makes it into the show.
You know, I don't know if it does. You may be right.
I can't remember.
But yeah, it's more of a title than a name.
Yeah. This was shocking to me. If it's made mention of in the show, I feel like everything they did after they mentioned it undid it, because it became so much about Theon in all shades, you know. That it never occurred to me that this was more of a role. Yeah. You know, that anybody could fill.
She says they hunt together and not for deer. I've heard
Yeah.
tales, things I can scarce believe, even of a Bolton.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's already some shit going on. And when she questioned, the bastard about what the fuck these men are for, he basically was like, shut the fuck up, bitch. Like, that's essentially, he told her, no woman gets to ask him questions like this. So, yeah, not a great reputation already. And you really, I remember being so disappointed on rereading at how early we hear that this guy's a fucking problem, but how nobody does a thing to take him in hand or do anything to restrain him in any way. Because I just wanted to think that if people are alerted ahead, they can do something. Gives me a sense of control. And it turns out, not really. That's not how it works. People get to do what they want with their own people on their own lands until they fucking cross a line. And up till then, they're allowed to just completely be monsters, and nobody does or says shit about it.
Pretty much. And if you are, have any connection to someone with any power, say like your father is a big muckety-muck, that's just going to lend itself to making you off limits to anybody else's justice, So, yeah, there's that privilege that is enough to cover even a bastard, apparently.
Indeed.
As long as, word is out on the street that his father is, sanctioning his behavior and raised him up to this title without actually giving him the name, because he's still is it a Snow? He's a Snow, right?
Yes, as of right now, he has not been acknowledged. He was just brought out of his his hovel once the true-born heir died.
So, he doesn't even have the name yet, but he doesn't need to because he has everything else that you need. He has his father's approval. He's there on the lands. He gets to run, whatever he wants to run while his father is away. So, yeah, it's got, a lot of who's going to check me energy. And it turns out nobody, really.
This is that shit, man. This is that shit that I wish I had more of and simultaneously am proud I don't. Because people who just do the who's going to check me, they fucking get results, is the thing. It tends to work more often than not. The only time that it doesn't is if they really fuck up in such a spectacular way. But that's something that I've learned a lot over the past 4 or 6 years or so. Is just, somebody actually has to do something about it, though. You know, somebody has to take a stand. And it's shocking how few people are actually, willing to do that.
Nobody wants to risk their... And, I mean, I'm not, trying to sound all high and mighty. I operate under the same sort of thing sometimes. Nobody wants to put their own ass on the line if they can help it at all.
Yep. So,
I love this moment, too, where she's when they're talking about her getting married or whatever, and she says something to, Sir Roderick,
my God.
You don't have to look very far.
I loved that. I forgot all about that.
He's all yeah, maybe we'll find, because they've already talked about, maybe Manderley is a possible spouse for her, and she's just I'm too small and frail to lie beneath him. And he's yeah, well, I'm sure you have plenty other suitors. We'll try to find you a prospect more to your taste.
She's here's my WhatsApp. Get in touch with me later. I got my OnlyFans, which is set to private. That's just for you. Check it out.
After she leaves, Lewin is all oh shit. Oh shit.
But Bran's suggestion is that perhaps, which bastard does he suggest she could maybe marry?
Lord Harsey's bastard at Deepwood Moat.
Right. And later on, Maester Lewin sort of examines that suggestion a little further, and it's that might work, actually. And tells Bran, good on you, buddy. That was actually pretty good.
I like this moment because this was good for me as a reader. Bran asked Sir Roderick, like, why couldn't you marry her? And he's like, you said she was comely, which I'll never get over that being like a compliment.
I know, right?
And he's like, it's really sweet of you to think of that, but I'm only a knight, so like it wouldn't be appropriate.
Plus, he's old enough that he could only offer like limited assistance for a short time, probably.
Yeah, and then she would be in the same position when he died.
Yep.
So yeah. But yeah, Bran's out here thinking he's trying to put the pieces together.
Let's see. Then let the Lord Hornwood's bastard be the heir. That's, I think, what I was thinking of, was letting Lord Hornwood's bastard be the heir. Lady Danella is past her fertile years, and as she said herself, if not the bastard, who? Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
So, but they're saying to her, I mean, well, they're not saying to her, they're saying about her,
right, that
this might be difficult because this kid is not her blood.
Right.
And it's basically, the fruit of her husband cheating on her, his bastard. Like, why would she want to let him, raise him up and give him the name? I think they end up deciding to do that, though.
I think
the end of all this.
There's not a lot of options left, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So at this point, Bran asks to be excused, and he goes to the Godswood with Hodor, and gets surprised by Yara Osha, my bad, busting up out of the water. And it turns out that she was trying to touch the bottom. And when Bran says, I never knew there was a bottom, she just says, might be there isn't, which I guess means that she did not touch the bottom as she had intended. And I love when he's staring at her because she's naked, and she's like, haven't you seen a woman before? And he's just like, yeah, but she basically, but you look weird. Because she's super thin, and she's got a bunch of scars all over her. She's not soft and curvy like the, sort of highborn women that he's seen. This is a different kind of woman he's looking at. Yep, definitely. And she says, I fought men black crows oft as not, killed me one too. And then heard some yattering in the kitchen today about you and them Freys. He says, what did they say? And she says that it's a fool boy who mocks a giant and a mad world when a cripple has to defend him. And Bran thinks about how he got separated from Hodor at some point when they were like at a market, and they went to find Hodor, and he was like up against a wall. He'd been cornered by some boys who were like poking him with sticks. And he, even in this moment of like genuinely being afraid, never lashed out at them at all and defended himself, even though he probably could have brained every single one of those fucking kids. Yeah. He says Bran is like, something says that he has a gentle spirit, and Osha's like, yeah, and he could rip a man's head off his fucking shoulders if he takes a mind to do it. And then she warns them, or warns Bran that him and Hodor should both be really careful around the Freys. Yeah. That they are dangerous, basically. The big one they call Little. It comes to me, he's well named. Big outside, little inside, and mean down to the bones. And that's a tremendous amount of shade. Right? And big Bran tries to be like, inside. He would never hurt me. And she's like, well, maybe he's smarter than he looks, but he might not be. So just, be careful about it. And then she asks about the wolf dreams, and Bran is like, God damn it, bitch, why did you need to bring that up? I don't want to talk about this with you. I don't want to talk about this at all. And she tells him he needs to be a better liar if he's going to be a prince. And then basically he's like, keep your secrets then. And then she leaves. All right, keep your secrets, says a stoned Frodo. So Yeah, this is like, on this night he dreamed of the weirwood. It was looking at him with its deep red eyes, calling to him with its twisted wooden mouth, and from its pale branches... There's something about calling something that's, like, still alive wooden. Like, saying it has a wooden mouth, even though that's, like, it's a tree mouth. That feels, like, rude to me somehow. But anyway... and from its pale branches, the three-eyed crow came flapping, pecking at his face and crying his name in a voice as sharp as swords. And he wakes up and he sees that there is a bunch of umbermen who have arrived. And they, unsurprisingly, also make a play for Lady Hornwood. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here it is. The Great John's uncles, blustery men in the winter of their days, with beards as white as the bearskin cloaks they wore, which sounds so cool. A crow had once taken Moores for dead and pecked out his eye, so he wore a chunk of dragon glass in its stead. As old Nan told the tale, he'd grabbed the crow in his fist and bitten its head off, so they named him Crow Food, which I'm like, that's not...
Yeah. Yeah.
She would never tell Bran why his gaunt brother Hother was called Whoresbane.
Jesus Christ.
I would also like not to know that. Thank you. So, yeah. Who better to protect the widow's lands than an Umber? She's still grieving.
And what better Umber than me?
When Maester Lewin says she's still grieving, I have a cure for her grief under my furs.
These guys.
God.
Not okay.
So inelegant. Sir, have some dignity. And Hother wants ships. He says that there's wildlings stealing down from the north more than I've ever seen before. They cross the Bay of Seals in little boats and wash up on our shores. The crows in Eastwatch are too few to stop them, and they go to ground quick as weasels. Which is very evocative.
This continual kind of, these people who have behaved a certain way for generations are all suddenly leaving the north and coming south, and yet we don't seem to be intrigued by that, or think that it might be an indication of something that we should be, maybe we should look into that or ask around. It's so wild to be this early in the story. People are already like, something's going on up there.
Except they're not.
Oh yeah, exactly. Right?
They're like, we're very inconvenienced by the sudden dramatic change in behavior. It's like, nobody wants to work anymore. Oh, so mysterious. What could possibly be... There's no, cause behind that I could even imagine. It's simply a phenomenon with no explanation.
Oh my God. And much like that situation, if they just bothered to stop and ask someone, hey, what are you guys doing? Why are you all coming south all of a sudden?
But no.
Nope. Nope. Can't be bothered.
So, I do like this moment too, because Roderick says to him, you have forests of pine and old oak. Manderley has shipwrights and sailors. Together you ought to be able to float enough longships to guard both your coasts. And Umber's like, that fatty? Come on, man. He's so fat. He's just too fat.
This is whole argument.
And Roderick's like, no, I mean, yeah, he is, but he's not a dum-dum, so you're gonna work with him, or I'm gonna fucking tell on you. And he's just like, fine. And Bran is genuinely surprised that he just caves and goes along with it. But there's a modicum of loyalty there still.
Just a bit.
A drop. A taste.
And then they have some other people come, and the Glovers come. Oh my God, it's so
Sorry.
And the Glovers come, but they don't send. Well, it's his wife supposedly that's running the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't come because the babies are still too young for the journey.
Right.
So she sends her steward, who I feel like has a name, but I can't find it.
I'm trying to find it here. Bastard boy Laren Snow. That's a whole other thing. Yeah, I can't find. Oh wait, is it Leopold Tallheart? Is that the one?
I'm sorry, I'm looking in.
There's so many names.
Tallheart was someone else.
Oh my god, I forgot that Jory was Roderick's son. That's so sad.
Aw. Yeah, he's dead now.
Yes, Sean, thank you. That's what I was saying. What the fuck?
Sorry. That should have been more of an internal thing. It was just the way you said it.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, no, he's dead.
Yeah, I just said it was sad because Jory sucks so much that it's a shame that he's his kid.
No, I don't. That was mostly my brain, like making the connection to the character and who the character was and where they are now. None of that needed to be said out loud. I'm sorry. But no, that guy's name. I don't think it's Tallheart because there's a description of them joining the Glover men, as they're going into this audience.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what this guy's name.
But yeah, he's sort of seen as the one that's in charge there, and managing things.
Is this nope? Because Sir Roderick is asking the steward about Lord Hornwood's bastard, whose name is Larence.
Larence is such a wild name.
I had a cousin named Roderick.
Did you?
A pretty common name, right? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Roderick. I feel like that's it's maybe not common, but.
I don't think I've never heard it before. No, sorry, I'm still trying to find this guy's name. Oh my god, I forgot. There's a mention about how much food everybody should be setting aside, and this steward had only been setting aside a tenth because a hedge wizard told him there would be a bountiful spirit summer before the cold set in.
Hedge wizard.
I love it.
I had a split second of confusion. Where I mistook what they meant by hedge wizard, and it didn't make any sense.
What did
until
you
I worked
think?
out. Girl, for some reason I was thinking about hedge fund managers, and I was just
okay. You got it. What connection did you draw?
My brain was just like, wait, no, that can't be what he means. Try again, and I had to just think again, and I was like, oh wait. He literally means like, someone who is forecasting what the harvest will be, whatever else. But yeah.
God. Okay, sorry. So, oh yeah, here it is. Leopold Tallheart had his turn the following day. He spoke of weather portents and the slack wits of small folk, and how his nephew itched for battle. Benfred has raised his own company of lances, boys, none older than 19 years, but everyone thinks he's another young wolf. When I told them they were only young rabbits, they laughed at me. Now they call themselves the Wild Hares and gallop about the country with rabbit skins tied to the ends of their lances, singing songs of chivalry. Bran thought that sounded grand.
This sounds like nonsense. Quit it.
Bran is just like, that's the life. That's what I want. Nobody understands me. I wish that I could do this. And I felt for him a little bit. Just like, yeah, it would sound good, wouldn't it? So, let's see. Roderick was clearly displeased by let's see. If the king were in need of more men, he would send for them, he said. Instruct your nephew that he is to remain at Torrance Square as his lord father commanded. And again, Lady Hornwood, poor thing, with no husband to defend her lands.
An empty hall is a sad one.
Yep.
So he's thinking about sending his younger son for her to foster as her own. And then Lewin is like, and if he happened to be named an heir, how would that work out for you? And they're all like all these different sort of machinations to get to this woman's land and property. And it's kind of gross, but I understand, again, for the world that we're visiting here, this is how this shit works. And an unmarried woman sitting on prime real estate, people are going to be coming after her like fucking vultures.
Yep.
And this is like what we're seeing.
Yep, 100%. And I mention quick of Austin Armenio, who has sent me some information about these chapters, and he makes a good point about how it's Bran's suggestion to potentially legitimize the bastard, and that this is probably evidence of being, part of Jon's life, and having a lot more sympathy towards bastards as a whole, and seeing them as being potentially worthy, whereas somebody else may have overlooked that as a possibility.
Well, that's interesting.
Which makes sense, There's just such there's such a prejudice against them depending on who you're dealing with.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it could be something that nobody would even want to talk about doing.
It's funny because my assumption was just that like everyone would feel that way at Winterfell because they all like grew up with Jon. But no, that doesn't necessarily have to be true. Especially for it's one thing for the kids that grew up with him. They know him their whole life and they don't know a life without him there. But the adults would already have their prejudices about bastards and whether or not they could ever be raised up to actually be a part of a noble family. So yeah, it does make sense that for Bran, it would why not?
Yeah.
But an adult, even adults who are from Winterfell and knew Jon and loved him, our brains get stuck thinking about things in certain ways. We just don't think to look at them from a different perspective. So yeah, that's really interesting.
It should be mentioned, though, that as much as, one would think the children would be on his side, Sansa is not pro-Jon in terms of, seeing him as an equal. She's very conscious of the fact that he is a bastard and not really her brother. Half-brother is...
Yeah,
I think
that's
she,
true.
Corrects people about that a couple times.
Yeah, that's true.
But, So, let's see. Oh my god. Lady Hornwood can have one of our phrase. She can have both of them if she likes. You are not kind, my prince, Sir Roderick chided gently. So, over the next few days, they get lots of, RSVPs. Thanks, can't make it. And, let's see, Lord Serwyn was a captive of the Lannisters, but his son, a lad of 14, arrived one bright, blustery morning at the head of 24 lances. And this is the one that calls out to Bran. His name is Clay. And Clay is like, hey, did you see that fucking letter Stannis sent out? Turns out that Cersei's been boinking her fucking brother, and her kids are all bastards, and they're of incest. And Bran gets triggered by this hard. And basically goes into a full-on PTSD meltdown, panic attack sort of situation. I feel so bad, too, because he just doesn't have any idea what this is about, He gets, these vague snippets of Jaime saying the things I do for love, but he doesn't have anything to connect that with. And to a degree, that protects him. But it's also just the idea of undergoing this sort of torment and really having no idea why. It seems very cruel to me.
Yeah. I'm really curious if he remembers this when he wakes up the next day. Because from what I recall, he doesn't ever really get this memory back on the show until much, much later when he's like, the Ravens, and he can like see everything that ever happened.
Right.
But here, like, I don't remember him ever having or ever being this close to remembering what happened to him on the show.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to know because I don't remember, and they aren't able to depict things in certain ways.
Right.
But, yeah.
But here in this dream, he has a very clear memory of, like, being up there with his fingers slipping and asking for help, and a golden man appears and says the things I do for love. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh my God, is he going to remember that when he wakes up tomorrow? and if he does, what's the memory going to be? Like, will it just be like a undefined face, like just like I'm knowing it's a man, but like that's about it. So yeah, I'm curious about that.
And even if he did, what does it mean? What does it do?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. Like in the show, so much of it was like no one knew how Bran got hurt, right? And now, like, if this is a word in the books, if people do know, like, if he does remember, does he tell anybody? And if he, I mean, and if he does tell someone, does that matter? Do they believe him? Like, I'm just curious if that's a thing that's going to be a thing or not.
I just can't get over. Sometimes I stop and think about the fact that Jaime and Cersei could not fucking keep it in their pants for like couple weeks that they were at Winterfell. Like, guys, Jesus, have some self-control. Go off property, for God's sake. But no.
I like that they went to somebody else's property and then decided they found a room that was safe to do this in. Mm-hmm. Like, you have no idea.
They really thought they knew.
Yeah, like, you don't live here. You don't know who comes up here every day. Mm-hmm. And they just were just like, oh yeah, this will be fine. Mm-hmm. Based on what?
So yeah, this ends with the crow in his dream, like pecking through his skull between his eyes and like sort of in the third eye center.
Slimy bits of bone and brain.
Yeek.
But he does. He opens his third eye and then he sees.
Yep.
Which,
Ta-da!
Okay, George.
So then we go to Tyrion. And we have him meeting with Pycelle first. What?
Nothing. I just found this really funny. That Tyrion is just really like sticking it to him just because he can.
Yeah.
And I just enjoyed it.
Yeah, Tyrion's like, hey, can you mail this letter for me? It's extremely important. Super urgent.
But don't read it.
Don't read it, nobody. I got it sealed. And if there's a reply, I'm going to need you to tell me right away. Me. Only me.
Just me.
Right? And
then Pycelle's like, yeah. As soon as I eat breakfast. And Tyrion is like, yeah, no. You
can do this shit now. In front of my face. Thanks. So eventually he shuffles off, and while he's out of the room, Tyrion goes through all of his like bottles and potions and whatnot.
Find something.
Yeah, he managed to pull a small dusty bottle off the high shelf. When he read the label, he smiled and slipped it up his sleeve.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know, and I don't remember if this was like part of the show. Like, I do not remember what he steals here.
And yeah, it turns out that the message was sent to the Prince of Dorne, and Pycelle basically like all but says, "Does the Queen know about this? Is she aware that you're like doing shit?" And Tyrion's like, I'm the hand of the king. The king's a fucking child, so I'm doing the shit needs doing. Do you have a fucking problem with that? And Pycelle's like, no. What do you want? No, of course not. And I love when he says about Cersei,
my God,
a most uncommon woman, and yet It is no small thing to tend to all the cares of the realm despite the frailty of her sex. Oh, yes, she's a frail dove. Just ask Eddard Stark.
Yeah, there's a couple of good lines when he's talking about not telling Cersei about any of this. And Pycelle's like, but, and Tyrion is like, no, I don't want to put any more burden on her. Doesn't she have enough to worry about? Do you want to add to her burden?
I love that. I know that you only care about her welfare and her mental health. So he takes off from this little meeting, and as he's leaving, he says to himself, "One." And he goes out to meet Bran. And this is one of the things that's like a real departure from the Bran of the show. There's a couple of women passing who are very attractive. And Bran doesn't even spare them a glance.
Yeah, I was reading this and it felt like off. Because the Bran on the show was very lecherous, you know?
He needed the bad pussy.
Oh my god. That was a thing. Why would you even bring that up, ma'am?
I'm sorry.
Ma'am.
I can't not address how incredibly poorly written such big sections of that show were, and I swear to God, that one is like, for me, that's the moment. As far as I'm concerned, that was really when I just was like, fuck this show.
Well, that wasn't the moment, but it was up there.
Well, yeah, no, true. And Bronn is watching the guys that are in training and noting which ones seem promising. And there's one guy in particular that he's like, he is really good, but he does fall into a rhythm and a pattern.
Yep. And if I ever have to fight him, that's how I'm going to kill him. Which is a really funny line, but also tells us so much about what he thinks is important, where his values are. And his values are not like spending time, not that there's anything wrong with like enjoying, you know, lovely women as they walk by, but that's just not, like for him, it's more important to be observing this fight. And that's just such a departure from how he was on the show.
Yeah, definitely. He's much less of a rapscallion here and much more of a badass. So this is when we find out that Lady Tanda is desperate to get Tyrion linked up with her daughter Lollys, who is 35 or 30-something, and evidently like rumored to still be a virgin. And
yeah, and he says that there's something. What does he call her? Because he says there's something wrong with her, but I forget what he calls her.
Dim-witted. A large, soft, dim-witted girl who rumor said was still a maid at 30 and 3.
Gotcha. I feel like...
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just that's what it was. The way he writes that, like, she got an idea that the Dwarf Lord would somehow be the perfect match.
Oh.
Because the implication is that because he's a dwarf, right? Like, okay, well, he can't say no.
Right, yes.
You know, finally someone, you know, who's noble born, but can't be picky. So, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. He's like, send her my regrets.
Yeah. She keeps trying to feed him up and shit. And gives him like a full menu to report. And honestly, that shit would work on me. But
who says send Shaga? Is that Tyrion or Bronn who says that? I think it might be Tyrion who says
Tyrion says, and Bronn says Shaga's more likely to eat the maid and marry the goose.
I enjoyed that.
So, then he talks about a moneylender from Bravos who's here. And Tyrion's like, send him to Littlefinger. A lordling from the Trident says your father's men burned his keep, raped his wife, and killed all his peasants. He wants new peasants and walked all this way to sing how loyal he is and beg for recompense. And Tyrion's like, that's what fucking war is. And I'm like, yeah, but those were your guys, dude.
Yeah,
like,
that's different. Like,
that doesn't feel like...
I guess that's Tyrion just having a moment of frustration, right? Because he understands that your own people aren't supposed to come through the fucking town,
right?
And ravage you like this.
Mm-hmm.
Though it turns out that that's actually much more common than we all like to think about, but
Indeed.
That's another thing. But he's also like, we're going to see him tomorrow. We're going to give him a nice, comfortable place for the night.
And new boots, I think he says.
Yeah, and new boots because he did all this walking. And he says something about it's better than sending him to see Joffrey.
Let's see. Send him a new pair of boots, courtesy of King Joffrey. No, not him.
No, he says courtesy of King Joffrey. Okay.
Yeah.
A show of generosity never hurt.
And then bakers, butchers, and greengrocers. And Tyrion's like, dude, if I offer them anything, they are going to tell people, and then we're going to have even more people at our door. I can't give them any food. We can give them protection. And at this point, Bran says the mob roasted a baker in his own oven last night. They claimed he charged too much for bread. Did he? He's not apt to deny it. They didn't eat him, did they? Not that I've heard. Next time they will, Tyrion said grimly.
And this is at the beginning. Tyrion's like, tell him I'll send them the protection. He says the gold cloaks. And Bran is like, no, they said there were gold cloaks in the mob.
Yep. Tyrion had sent them off with regrets. His nephew would send them off with whips and spears.
That's what I was thinking of, about how it'd be better than to go in front of Joffrey.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
then they start talking about Alistair Thorne.
Oh my god. This is one of those moments that I really like, because Tyrion is so capable, but he makes a real bad decision here based purely on the fact that he doesn't like the guy.
Yep.
And you and I had a talk a little while ago about the distinction that a lot of people fail to make between disliking someone and being able to tell whether that person is actually a bad person. And Tyrion isn't able to keep his judgment unbiased here. And had he gone and listened and been even-handed in the way that he handled this situation, things could have gone really fucking differently, for the series.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about. How would this be different if Tyrion had met with him? Mm-hmm. Because on the one hand, I the question is, does Tyrion believe him? And if he does, what does he do with that information?
Right.
So I guess my first question would be, does Tyrion believe him when he sees this rotting hand? And I think if Tyrion weren't busy being the hand, with all this other stuff going on, he probably would have taken this information more seriously and allotted more resources. Theoretically, if he had actually met with Alistair Thorne.
The question for me is whether the hand would still be alive. Because I think that the implication is that it starts to really rot after enough time away from the wall, but that it was still moving around.
Yeah, that I don't. What does he say? He's here with a rotted hand in a jar. Mm-hmm. So this is an interesting question because they don't see him. The steward sees him and then relays the message to Bran, who is now relaying the message to Tyrion. Right.
Right. So
the question is, what did the steward see? I would imagine that Alistair Thorne is going to show everybody, whoever stops him, and be like, look at this fucking hand in this jar. It's bouncing all around.
See, I see him as being way too proud to, engage with people.
You think so? This is just for the king. I need to see the king. It's very important business.
Exactly.
Yeah. That kind of tracks. Because yeah, if I'm the steward, but also that kind of information can get lost when it gets passed and passed and passed. So maybe the steward saw something, but then he tries to tell Bran, and Bran takes that information with kind of a grain of salt. Like, the fuck is this guy talking about?
Yeah, I could definitely see Bran hearing, like, it's still alive, and being like, I'm not telling him it's still alive.
Like,
Shut up.
Exactly. But yeah, it's definitely there's definitely a glaring missed opportunity when you have already know what's going to happen. You know, when you're reading for the first time, I don't even know. Like, first time readers, we know what Alistair has brought, so I imagine there's an incredible amount of frustration when Tyrion is just like, I don't feel like seeing him.
Yeah,
you know, let his hand rot a little more. You know.
Yep. And he, specifically requests that he be put in, an unpleasant, dank room.
Oh, my God.
He's just really petty.
Yeah. Make sure where no one has rushed to change anything in a year.
Yep.
Put him in the darkest, smelliest, grossest place. Yeah, man. It's a fine line. Making that distinction between, you know... And
understanding, you know... I'm not great about it all the time. But sometimes you just have to try and set aside your, ideas of who somebody is, because it can really color the way you interpret everything they do. And it's not necessarily fair, just because you think that you're so correct. You know, we all have our baggage that we bring to things, and it's kind of... important that we at least be aware that we have it. But yeah, I always think about this moment and what could have been if Tyrion had been a little bit more high-minded, if it wasn't Alistair that they sent. I could even see if Jon had been tasked with writing a note to Tyrion because they got along so well. And been like, hey, buddy, look, this is going to sound fucking nuts. I know, but please, you know I'm not a lunatic. This happened. Please believe that this happened.
That's a really good idea.
But,
Another missed opportunity. I remember, they sent Alistair Thorne for... One, because he was just, in such a bad... He was just... The things with him and Jon, were escalating.
Yes.
But also because he... had been to court before, and they thought that he would be well received. You know, because he was sort of highborn. I can't remember exactly what his station was, but you know what I mean. So they thought that he would be better received as a representative. But it turns out the very person they need him to see has already had an encounter with him that has colored his judgment of him.
Yeah.
So they ended up shooting themselves in the foot by sending him. And, you know, and it turns out that they sent who they thought was the best person, and it turns out that it was literally the worst.
Yeah.
You know? And that's just how some shit works for us sometimes, you know? We think we are doing the thing that makes the most sense. We think we're doing the thing that's going to be the most beneficial to us and our objective, and we have no idea that we are just wrong, wildly wrong about, you know, we have just, you know, but also to be fair to the fucking watch, there's no way for them to have been able to prepare. No, definitely not. Yeah, because they have no idea. Well, maybe I don't know what the Raven situation is, but I feel like by the time Alistair is sent on this journey, which takes fucking forever, Tyrion wasn't even a goddamn hand of the king. Exactly. Yeah. You know. Yep. But there's all this other shit that's in motion simultaneously, so that by the time he actually gets there, you know, ugh. That whole you're doing the thing that you think is the smartest and it's actually the worst. Guys, I recently had a really bad makeup test for my wedding, and I was looking for a new makeup artist, and rather than tell her the whole story of what happened, because she asked me what went down with the other artist, I sent her a link to my Facebook post where I talked about what happened, and I didn't link the business page to the person who fucked up or do anything like that. I just shared the story and some photos. But that resulted in the makeup artist backing out of doing my makeup because for some reason she no longer felt comfortable. And I really thought I was being I was
genuinely afraid to send her just the photos of the test because I was so sure she wasn't going to believe me because I looked that bad. And so I was thinking, I'll be incredibly transparent here and show her the whole story. And the screenshots of the texts where the artist, like, denies all of this. It was the wrong call, guys. Mm-hmm. She totally just backed out and left me high and dry, and now I don't have a makeup artist, and nobody else is available.
The things we do sometimes, like when we are certain that we are right, and we like want to make sure that other people realize that we're right. Like, no, I'm right though. Like, this wasn't my fault. And you know what? That does not always work out for us when we behave that way.
Sure don't. I always think over-explaining is helpful. But, you know what? It's just sometimes looks like you're spinning. So Cersei comes across Tyrion here and basically accuses him of being incompetent because she has a whole different set of priorities.
She's about to get into some shit, y'all.
Yep.
I don't know what shit, but she's on her way to it. and
yeah, she is. She's such a fucking
He
drama
says
queen,
that she is high above him, a goddess in green. Mm-hmm. And she is displeased about what he did with Janos Slynt. And he tells her that she looks lovely. And then she just lays into him like a sitcom boss, you know, where like the husband goes to work and he's got like a mean boss that just berates him and
yep.
Like questions everything he's doing, tells him how wrong he is about literally everything. Oh my god, it's really fantastic.
And let's see, everyday more men rally to his banners. His host is now said to be 100,000 strong. That seems rather high. Tyrion. Mm-hmm. And a pity you let the Knight of Flowers slip through your pretty little fingers. Still, Renly has other concerns besides us. So he is just really under the impression that Renly's going to hang back and just see how it goes. But Cersei is certain that Renly is going to strike while the iron is hot. Because she has this like idea about him that, you know, she's just very paranoid in general. So she's going to assume everybody is going to try and strike as soon as they can, regardless of who it is or what they're upset about.
And she feels really vulnerable. You know, and I guess like her paranoia is kind of deserved, or not deserved, warranted, because she's done some fucking shady shit. You know, so like she's had her husband killed and had the hand killed, and so she is looking at everybody as potential, not just like out to uproot, like, you know, her place, but like she's done such dirty shit that she just expects everybody else to be willing to do everything that she's willing to do. Yep. You know? So
yeah,
she wants him to make father bring his army to King's Landing, and that sentence is ludicrous. And
Tyrion very quickly points that out. He's like, "You grew up in the same house as the two of us. What in the fuck makes you think I could?" What?
It makes no sense that she would even say that. Mm-hmm. Is she this? Is Book Cersei this out of touch with the way people operate and who's who?
I don't know.
Because this just sounds to me like I don't even know who she's talking about or who she thinks she's talking to. It's just such a, you know, she might as well have just said something like, I want you to make this horse that I'm riding fly. It's an insane thing to say.
Oh, that's funny. I don't know why, but for some reason phrasing it as this horse that I'm riding made it even funnier. Not that other horse over there. Mine, the one I'm riding.
Oh yeah, she doesn't give a fuck about anybody else's horse line. And then she's also like, and when are you going to get Jamie free? Mm-hmm. And then insults him like in the same breath. When do you get him
10
free?
of you.
100, bitch.
100. Oh, that's right. 100, bitch.
Oh my god. And then she's just she's really on a roll. Mm-hmm. Then she's like a second ago she says, "I want you to make father bring his army to King's Landing," and then she says, "He must have been mad to send you. Mm-hmm. You're worse than useless." And then that's when she leaves.
Yep. And we get something interesting here that I'll be honest, I didn't remember. But Tyrion is genuinely more unnerved by what's going on with Stannis. And we find out that they have tried to plant a few different spies, and they just never hear back from any of them.
I love this.
I didn't recall, I'll be honest.
I think that says, I mean, I don't know what's happening over there. I wonder how much. Well, also too, they're in that. Where are they at? Is it Dragonstone? Mm-hmm. They're at?
Yeah.
So that place is pretty. You know, we know that it was able to withstand like a siege and the other war with Robert and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess the way it's situated, it makes it difficult for, or maybe makes it easy for them to guard it. Probably. I feel like, it's, what the fuck? Oh my god, there's a fly in here. It is driving me crazy. It keeps, like, landing on my leg, and I keep jumping. It's so unpleasant. But, so, I guess the way the Dragonstone is, at least how I picture it from the show, they can just stake out the water, like, around it, and just catch whoever is coming from whatever direction.
Right.
So they're set up, pretty well. And I also like the idea that, like, the more people they send that don't return, the greater a threat they become in Tyrion's imagination or whoever is thinking about them. I really like that.
Yeah, part of me is also wondering, is like Melisandre, does she have anything to do with this? The fact that everybody just fucking vanishes, like. I said, I didn't recall this, but I like the concept of her just being really scary in that respect.
I didn't even think about her for this. I was thinking about Davos and his sea expertise and all that shit. But I really like the idea of Melisandre just, being at the gates, zapping people down, or however her fucking magic works.
Zapping people down. Yep, that's what she do.
I may have taken some liberties with how her religion works. As I am wont to do with everybody's religion.
Jesus died for me. Manipulative. So... At this point, he goes to see Podrick, who informs him that, who is it that's visiting? It's Littlefinger. And he, calls him by a bunch of his various titles. And when Tyrion's like, wow, you make him sound like he's a bunch of people.
Right? You make him sound like a crowd.
Poor Podrick, shies away from him like Tyrion slapped him. And Tyrion is just like... God damn it, Patrick. I feel bad now. I'm just trying to joke with you, buddy. What's going on?
Oh, God.
I really enjoy that bit.
That's a shame.
So, yeah, he goes in there and... What?
I'm just reading the exchange. And what fucks him up is that he calls them Lord Littlefinger. That's why he can't recover.
Oh, Podrick, you're so precious.
I keep forgetting that shit is like a fucking insult. Like, you're not supposed to call a Littlefinger to his face.
I don't know. Is it an insult or is it just a nickname?
I feel like it's said with such derision, but maybe that's just because people don't like him. So
fair.
But, yeah. So, the king is fighting hares with a crossbow.
Oh, I forgot about this whole thing going on.
The hares are winning.
Joff is just embarrassing himself out there. This is such a great, like, bit of business in the background to this scene, and I forgot all about it. This is what, like, differentiates excellent writing from good writing. Is little things like this. This doesn't need to be here. They could just come in and have this conversation, and that'd be fine. But having Joffrey struggling off camera, essentially, with his crossbow, and the occasional, like, intermittent commentary on how he's doing, that just really takes it to another whole level for me. I love it. This is what I live for, man.
He's so bad at this. At one point, one of the hares like looks at him and like twitches his nose like at him before it runs away. It's very cartoony.
Come on, bitch! Never gonna catch me, copper. So this is when Tyrion sort of points out Littlefinger's knife. And gauges his reaction. And the reaction he gets is basically Littlefinger smirking at him going, "Oh, my knife. Interesting that you mentioned that. I think it's I just, find it interesting.
Yeah.
No reason." And it's clear he knows exactly what it is that Tyrion's getting at, and he has no fear of any kind that Tyrion can do jack shit to him.
Yeah. And Tyrion makes note of that. Like, okay, this is a guy who clearly feels that he is untouchable. Which is a weird thing for him to think, because he doesn't really have behind him the things that come with being from a powerful house. He doesn't have an army, he doesn't have, like, doesn't have banners, no holdings, really. Not aligned with like a great house by marriage, and yet he's still out in this world, kind of with that "who's going to check me" energy that we were talking about earlier. You know, I like too that there's Tyrion says something like, you look very elegant today, and this Littlefinger. So like he's growing on me. I didn't really love him at first, and I think part of that was because I was listening to the audiobook. But this exchange they have when he tells him that you look elegant, and then he's like, "I'm wounded. I strive to look elegant every day." and then I think Tyrion asked him about the colors he's wearing and if they're the colors of his house. And Peter is like, "Yeah, no, but a man gets bored wearing the same colors day in and day out." And it's which, like, on the surface, yes, we're talking about clothes, but also, like, I feel like he's suggesting that being beholden to a house, and being, like, aligned with one group of people and not having any wiggle room there, and you're just there because you're there, is not a life for him. He wants to be able to move and make deals with whomever he wants for his benefit, Yep. So I like that little bit.
And there's also some, Tyrion is realizing here just how dangerous this man actually is now that Tyrion has begun to get to know the workings of the castle and the politics of everything a little bit better. Mm-hmm. He is in control of so many key people in various positions that have they've been put into place without anyone raising an eyebrow because Littlefinger has seemed so disarming.
Yep.
And just non-threatening, and always been the guy that people could go to for help on various things. So nobody really felt like they needed to concern themselves with him. Yeah.
We get like a little background too of like how he actually ended up being as powerful as he is, and it just started with Jon Arryn bringing him in with like a very small, like little know-nothing job, like in customs or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he just did a really good job.
Yep.
And was able to move up in the world, like it was a fucking office. you know, and he started making them money, or not just making them money, but also making their money go much further than it was going before. Like, he was always managed to get done whatever, like, the crown wanted to happen. Like, you know, oh, there's a tournament coming up, you know, well, Peter Baelish is going to figure out how to fucking pay for that shit, or, you know, figure out a way to make it happen. And yeah, he just fucking, I work with so many people that, like, they're not as talented as him, but they are, like, sort of on the same track, you know, where you just kind of come in and then you, like, slash the budget by firing a bunch of people, and it looks really good. People are like, oh, you know how to make money. No, that's not what happened.
Yep.
But he understands that, like, people will only look at, like, one or two things before they make a decision about your worth. And he knows what things that, you know, the people are going to look for, and he knows how to have those things and get those things done, so that everybody who's looking at him is thinking to themselves, oh, this guy's going to be great for me.
Yes,
this guy's really going to be able to help me. Yeah. Dangerous.
In the process, he moved his own men into place. The keepers of the keys were his, all four. The king's counter and the king's scales were men he'd named. The officers in charge of all three mints, harbor masters, tax farmers, customs sergeants, wool factors, toll collectors, pursers, wine factors, 9 of every 10 belonged to Littlefinger. They were men of middling birth, by and large, merchants' sons, lesser lordlings, sometimes even foreigners, but judging from their results, far more able than their high-born predecessors.
Yep. And everything that moves through that city, he gets a little piece of. Which is really the genius of him. So,
at this point, Tyrion brings up him being fostered at the Tullys at River Run.
This fucking bragging that he fucked both of the girls, what? No thank you.
I know, right? The lie, Tyrion was fairly certain it was a lie, was delivered with such an air of nonchalance that one could almost believe it. Could it have been Catelyn Stark who lied? About her defloration and the dagger as well?
Come on now.
Yeah. And it's just, that's the thing, is like, lies like that are so effective, because if you're trying to poke holes in a thing, you could just step back and be like, well, why would he lie about that? And there's not really any particular reason. And so it makes it feel like, well, it's probably true then, you know? But when somebody is like he is, there doesn't have to be a particular objective right now. He just, like, lays something in place to for God knows what reason, and to make himself seem like he's closer to them than he really was. And it just, you know, he cashes in eventually, maybe later, or maybe he doesn't. Just such a, like, there are just people like this who just lie for, like, no reason over things that don't matter, you know? And if they're not intelligent, it winds up all, like, coming to a head and being a disaster. But Littlefinger is just smarter than your average bear. So, let's see, they talk about, like, who to exchange for Jaime, and Littlefinger's like, you're not going to get, like, Jaime back for Sansa. It's not happening.
He actually says that Catelyn would not be foolish enough to do that. And he makes it seem like she would not give up Jaime for just this girl.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is a real misrepresentation or misunderstanding. And I don't know, it feels weird to me that Peter would say this unless I don't believe he believes this.
Gotcha.
So it's weird that he's telling. I mean, it's not weird, but he's got to know that if given the opportunity, Catelyn would absolutely trade Jaime for one of her daughters. Like, I thought we were all on the same page with that. Now, nobody wants her to do that, and she hasn't been given permission to do that. And, you know, Robb and his men have counseled against that.
Right.
But if she had the opportunity to make the call, I think she absolutely would do that. And it's surprising to hear Peter be like, oh yeah, she's not so much of a fool to do that. And then Tyrion is like, well, I'm also going to offer her Arya.
Arya. She's not the square footage of inside of a kitchen.
That's Arya?
Yeah, like you times the length and width to find the area. You never heard that? You know the word area? Oh, there's nothing around this area, but maybe if we go next door.
I'm familiar with the word.
It's just like, it's just weird. It's weird to me that you keep calling her that when you watch the show, and it's not pronounced like that on the show either.
It's weird to me that you keep pointing it out after I've said I don't care multiple times.
Because it's not it. Why? Why is this the name? She's a main character. It's not like you're just like, calling Lord Tully Lord Tully or something.
I don't know what to tell you to make you feel better about this. So I'm going to have to just let you work it out on your own.
Rashawn.
You're going to have to just work that out on your own. I can't help you with this.
All right. So, at this point, Tyrion's like, well, what if I offered... what if I got in touch with Lysa, and I offered her Jon's true killer? And I love this moment where Littlefinger says, Lysa has woes of her own, clansmen raiding out of the mountains of the moon in greater numbers than ever before, and better armed. Distressing, said Tyrion Lannister, who had armed them. That's a good bit. And he wants her to swear fealty, and he wouldn't ask her to actually, turn her hand against her own family or her lands, but to go up against Renly or Stannis. And he says, I'll even name that appalling child of hers Warden of the East, and to seal the bargain, I will give her my niece. When she comes of age, she can wed little Lord Robert. And, Littlefinger asks, what does Cersei think of this? And Tyrion just doesn't say anything. And Littlefinger realizes, oh, she hasn't been consulted about this at all. And he starts laughing. So then he's like, all right, well, I might be able to convince her because she likes me. But, what am I going to get out of it? And Tyrion tells him Harrenhal. And that is the first time that we really see Peter lose his cool. It's like a slight thing, but he has a moment of really sitting up and being like, what? And
he has a moment where he can't hide it in his eyes, like he's greedy and he wants this thing, and how much he wants it shows for a second. And it's really all that Tyrion needs to see.
I love this thing. Littlefinger looked like a boy who had just taken a furtive bite from a honeycomb. He was trying to watch for bees, but the honey was so sweet. And he does bring up a good point, which is the fact that Janos Slynt was also offered this place, and he's the fucking wall now. So what do I have to sort of guarantee that I'm not going to be disposed of once you're done with me? And he says, what can I say? I need you to deliver the Lady Lysa. I did not need Janos Slynt. I'd sooner have you seated in Harrenhal than Renly seated on the Iron Throne. What could be plainer? So he takes off, and then he sees Varys. And Varys is just like, my goodness, you are just a busy little bee. And you really fucked up Maester Pycelle's day by making him send this letter, but not letting him read it, not letting him tell anybody when you get a reply to it. Just really mean-spirited. And Tyrion is just like, I'm just so riddled with guilt over it. I can't sleep at night. So then, is that a crow I hear calling the raven black? Or would you sooner not hear what I've proposed to Doran Martell? And Varys makes a guess. So he says, The only puzzle is what you might have offered for his allegiance. A council seat is what Tyrion proposes initially, and then brings up the fact that he is still not over Elia's death. And maybe Tyrion is interested in offering up the guy who killed her. And then, lastly, and Tommen. Because you already offered Myrcella to Lysa Arryn. So there's no reason for you to go and offer her also to Dorne. And this is different, because obviously in the show, Myrcella went to Dorne. That was a whole other thing. So, and there's a moment here where Tyrion, like, is feeling himself a little bit, but the more he talks with Varys, the clearer it is that Varys just, like, knows so much already that he can put 2 and 2 together using basic math, essentially. And that it's not worth it trying to outplay him on some of this stuff because he's just one step ahead with all of his information already. And let's see. Tommen is a good boy. If I pry him away from Cersei and Joffrey while he's still young, he may even grow to be a good man. And a good king? Joffrey is king. And Tommen is heir, should anything ill befall his grace. Tommen, whose nature is so sweet and noticeably tractable. And, yeah, at this point, the one flaw in the ointment is what Cersei is going to say. Essentially, Tyrion is operating on the fact that Cersei's not going to find out in time to stop anything. But he is depending on what, like, if she does, at least he'll know who the fuck told her.
Yeah. I was going to say, if he feels like he understands that there's a very good chance that she will find out well in advance. And I'm curious how much of this is, one, to figure out, like, who is going to run back and tell her what exactly. And if he has a backup plan for when she finds out in advance that he's planning on doing this.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. In the show, there was no mention of sending Tommen anywhere, if I remember correctly. So, having him possibly being shipped off, I wonder if it's a case of she finds out, but not in time to stop both. Right? So maybe it's not so much that he has a plan B, it's just that one of the plans works. You know, like either the girl goes or Tommen goes, but Cersei can't stop them both from happening.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting too because, like, a lot of women in Cersei's position, as protective as they may be of their children, they would also recognize the sort of, like, position that they are in as queen would make their children some of the best bargaining chips they have. Mm-hmm. And it's just Cersei who is particularly, I don't know what word to use, like, just short-sighted, maybe, or so self-centered or controlling that it doesn't seem like anybody trusts that she'll see the big picture in that respect, you know?
I'm having some trouble, too, separating show Cersei from book Cersei. Mm-hmm. They are not the same.
No, not at all.
So, in my head, Cersei is smart enough to actually figure some of this out. But okay. I don't know if book Cersei is. And so, yeah, and also, like, on the show, this is so early, but, like, I found Cersei to be, like, legitimately, like, low-key terrifying. And this Cersei is definitely unhinged, and that's a type of scary.
Right.
But it's not, like, master plan kind of scary, you know? So, yeah,
I just think it's, you know, I mean, this is one of those things that I got into a lot of sort of debates with people when I was first reading these books about whether Cersei actually loves her children or whether she sees them as an extension of her own power and resents somebody coming in and sort of taking that from her. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but again, like, Show Cersei, from what I understand from people who read the books, they actually wrote into her character to make it a point that she's always talking about, like, what a loving mother she was.
Right.
And to make that part of this character. So like, my first instinct is to be like, no, she loved her kids. That's obvious. Mm-hmm. But is it? I don't know.
It was an ongoing, like, kind of argument because I really felt like she didn't genuinely love them. But the more I, like, get to know her, the more uncertain I am. And I'm like, well, really, if it's just, like, if it's love or if it's a possessiveness that looks like love, like, when do you know the difference? You know, how much difference does it make in the end? I don't know. But it's something that I think about all the time because she doesn't have much power, even though she is the queen. We have, you know, Tyrion coming in here and making all these plans, and nobody even cares that he hasn't consulted with her. They're all just sort of like, yeah, who cares? We'll get done what we get done. So her clinging to her kids for power does make some sense, but it's also weird that she would do that in some ways when she doesn't seem to be willing to make use of them as pawns. So maybe it is just love. Maybe it isn't just a power thing. Because she doesn't, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to say because, you know, one, I don't have children. So I'd like to be very careful, but I have difficulty distinguishing in real life people and their relationship with their kids. And sometimes I'll see something or read something and I feel like that's like branching out into sort of viewing your children as nothing more than an extension of yourself.
Yeah. Right.
But it also seems like to be very common to the point where I think that may just be a natural part of, like, you know, raising someone.
Right, yes.
You know, that it just, that you can't really, and it's not inherently a negative thing. Like, you can't help but see these little people that you raise as being, extensions of yourself. And that's not necessarily like, you know, some malevolent kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really interested in I think of all the characters, I'm most interested in seeing how I react to Cersei. And that's really based on years of people just talking incessantly about how show Cersei is so different than the book Cersei, you know. For all of these different reasons, like, people just really would not, like, be quiet about it. So I'm really interested to see, like, what all the hubbub was.
I felt that shade.
It wasn't just you, though. It was a general refrain.
That's fair. And yeah, it was just really notable in the show because of the fact that everything else, especially from the start, felt so completely aligned with the book. And they just had Cersei be different out of the gate. It wasn't an eventual evolution like it was with so many other characters where it was like, all right, they eventually reached a spot where they just didn't give a fuck around season 4 or 5.
Right.
Cersei, like, they wrote her different from the beginning. So it just was really noticeable how...
Yeah. I think it's interesting that the character they chose to change the most for the show was the woman. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, that's got to be part of it. Like, maybe she was too unlikable in the book, they thought. You know? Like, because a lot of the changes that I heard people talk about were around, like, this relationship she had with Robert, like, this idea that she went into the marriage and she was willing and open to love him and try to have sex with him and have children. Mm-hmm. And he was just so terrible on that first night that, like, she could never recover from it. But book Cersei was never here for that.
No,
you know?
Not a bit.
So that's like a weird choice to insert that into the story. And it has to be done so that we are, sympathetic to her? Because we would never forgive a woman for just being flat out like, yeah, no, fuck that dude. No, I never fucked him. I was never going to have his kids. And no, he didn't have to do anything to deserve it. I just made that choice. Fuck him. Like, they couldn't let that be a thing that happened.
Mm-hmm. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that there's a point at which a lot of people feel like if somebody just is that selfish out of the gate, they seem too cartoonish. And it's like, well, is it? You know, like, again, that's her trying to cling to the little power that she is allowed to have. But it's, in some ways, I don't know. It's, I'll be interested once we get to her chapters, like, where the conversation goes, because there are some things that I want to say, but it's too leading. So, but yeah, I have some thoughts about why they made some of the changes they did. All right, so yeah, that's the end of the chapter. Is him being like, well, I'll know who fucking told on me, to Varys. So, anything you want to add?
No.
You good? 2 hours? Good God. We've been recording all day, you guys.
We really have.
Oh, bitch is tired. So I don't really have any announcements except to remind you guys to check out the Discord. And I apologize for our long time away. I had problems because I went on my trip to Florida, and I thought I'd be able to come back and record, but the trip was a nightmare, and it just did not work out that way. And then Rashawn had a conflict that wound up coming up with an appointment that she had forgotten about. So apologies, guys, that we have been so behind, but we should be back on track now. So thanks for bearing with us. Appreciate your patience. We love you dearly. And it's just been bad luck with this show in particular for the past couple of weeks. So, all right. So we'll see you next week. Thank you all again. And until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.